Night Terrors The Flash issue 1, Alex Packnadell and Daniel Bayliss on art. So this is an interesting one going into, because I had no real familiarity with this writer. I hadn't really read any of his stuff before. I will say, and I actually, despite not knowing the writer going in, I thought the writer's voice was quite good. For the most part, I thought it read well, and that it flowed. All those sort of key comic book things. And it has more of an actual like coherent story versus Green Lantern, which is a lot of random scenes by comparison. It still kind of felt closer to that than the other tie-ins for me this week, though. Just in that by the end, I kind of felt like, okay, this story of Wally getting injured by Grodd, but we seem to be kind of in the past, or well, not really in the past, but we're in a nightmare where Wally's still Kid Flash, and he's been injured by Grodd, and Barry feels responsible, and he wants to try and fix it. By the end of the issue, though, there's something in the Speed Force that caused Wally to slow down, and that's why he got stabbed by the Spear of Destiny, which is fine. I guess one of the things, though, at the end of this issue that I felt was just, okay, there's something in the Speed Force that Barry's aware of by the end of this issue, but we know we're in a nightmare. So is this really in the Speed Force, or is this just like in his nightmare? Like, I wasn't sure about that at the end.
I'm going with the second. It's just a nightmare. And he doesn't realize it's a nightmare. He thinks it's part of the Speed Force.
Yeah,
but, I get this. I say it's similar to the Green Lantern book in that it's very clearly a writer with talent, right? Yeah, they've got the voices down. But I don't think there's a story here to back this up. It does. Again, it feels like someone got drafted in to write these two issues while there is no main writer on the Flash book, essentially, because one run's ended, the other one's not started yet.
Yeah, well, I would say there's no. It's just that we're just in a lucky place where the new run is starting right after this ends. So
I meant there's no writer. There's no like primary writer to draft into writing issues in the middle of their run.
Well, I think the other thing is, though, is that the new run and the old run were both Wally books, and this is a Barry story, so it almost makes sense as well for it to be someone different anyway.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, obviously he goes up to the watchtower at one point, and there's like a sort of burned like Hal there who's had better days. I think
it's a Hal, like it's from an event. I don't remember reading the final night, but he's in his parallax outfit.
It's not the only. Yeah, it's not the only editor's note in this either. At one point, Jay, when he's upset about Wally, talks about something, and it's like, hey, GSA confidential number 4 or something.
Classified, yeah.
Classified.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, so there's some deep pulls in the continuity and the editor's notes for this one, which I kind of appreciate. I don't know. This is exactly the type of issue. It's not as. I think it's a little bit better than Green Lantern because at least it is telling more of a direct story. There's a through line. Wally's injured. Yeah. Barry's upset about it. He goes to look for the source. It does feel a bit meaningless ultimately because it's all just in a nightmare. But at least there's a beat-to-beat story in there.
It's not particularly compelling, but it is a story of some sort, as opposed to, like I say, just events thrown together like the Green Lantern one. So I think this is better than that for sure.
It's better than that, but I still wasn't thrilled by it, and I'm not really that excited by issue 2.
Yeah, I like the art in this one. Give it that.
I think it's got its moments. I think the pages with the snow look really good.
Yeah, I think that final page looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, the final page, where he's looking and there's like something in the Speed Force, and it's
just like this distortion kind of. Like it's a really interesting effect.
Yeah,
actually, just the not the very last page, but the page before it, the very bottom panel. Barry's like running into the Speed Force. And he's like stretching into it, and I don't know, it looks really great.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think this doesn't overcome its tie-in, like, stigma, sadly. Yeah, Night Terror's Flash, it's just kind of a nothing thing, to be honest. I kind of felt empty at the end of it, and I'm like, this all feels kind of like it just doesn't matter. And I think the only way you can make stuff that stories that take place in a nightmare matter, if you're not going to do anything where it connects to the real world, is that it has to thematically link to whatever the character's going through. And a couple of them are kind of trying to tap into that, or in some cases, like we say Ravager, it's kind of doing something new with the character, and it's a character who doesn't usually get as much attention, so it's inherently more interesting, and that kind of goes for Mary to a point as well.
Whereas this, it's so in terms of Barry's fears, it's Wally's injured, something wrong with Speed Force. It's so generic surface level fears.
It's almost like the bigger characters, Green Lantern, Flash, and maybe Superman and Batman have this as well. They're almost suffering more because I'm like, we've explored all these fears.
Batman definitely suffered. We saw the pearls.
We've explored these things so many times at this point that they're suffering more. Whereas, someone like Mary, it's like, this is actually new. This is like new material. All right, what are you rating Night Terror's Flash issue 1?
I'm going to give it a 4. I don't think it's the worst. It's still not great.
I think this is a 5 for me. This is like straight down the middle. The craft is good. It's telling a story. It's just nothing about it feels important or like it's worth my time.